G'day, ZiggyD here, and welcome to my level 40 recap for my two-handed sword-wielding Shadow, my build of the week number 2. Now, I'm currently level 44, and about halfway through Act 2, just progressing through Act 2 Cruel. And first things first, back in Default League. I made it a bit further than I did on my Blood Magic Bow Duelist. I just seem to be not having much luck in Hardcore League at the moment. So what I actually died to was Piety at the end of Normal, and I learned a few lessons of that, and it actually caused me to reevaluate the build a little bit and change the direction. Not entirely because of the way I died, but when I entered Softcore, I thought it might be a good idea just to have a re-look at the passive skill tree, and I've actually redesigned it a fair bit, so I'll go over that a little bit later in the video. But the other lesson I learned was to always make sure that you have thawing flasks on you, so ones that dispel frozen and chilled, because I didn't get frozen, but I did get chilled and slowed, and I couldn't quite get out of the ice arrows in time, so I'm still fairly inexperienced when it comes to Piety. The first time I cleared Piety was with a party, and then after that, I've only cleared her, I guess, 2 other times since then, so that was, I guess, my 3rd time going through, and still lessons to be learned in regards to that boss fight, as is pretty much always the case in Path of Exile, but that's the best way to learn a lesson, is to go ahead and die. So, let's get straight into it. The background footage you've just been watching was me farming some Fell Shrine in Cruel difficulty, and just shows off how the build currently plays, but I want to talk a bit about, in this video, some of my plans for upcoming as well. So far, level 20 recap up to that point was really fun. There was some severe issues from level 20 to 30 in regards to mana especially. I've actually got some notes here which I should have gotten earlier, but let's go ahead and grab these notes here. So yeah, around level 30 I was having serious mana problems. However, I ended up finding Slither Pinch here, which gave me an extra 2% mana leech there, and that actually helped quite a lot. So if you're following this sort of build pretty closely and are having problems, a little bit of extra mana leech or a bit of extra mana regeneration through an amulet or something like that, I think would pretty much make the difference. I'm not having too many mana problems now. Now these gloves were a pretty awesome find, but you could still get some mana leech or something on an amulet or a ring or something like that. So yeah, around 2%, which is 4% total if I go have a look at my offense now. My current total is 4%, and that's made a big difference to any mana issues I was having. So before we take a look at the passives, let's start off by looking at my skills. As you were seeing in the earlier footage there, Lightning Strike is my main AoE. I tend to use it as a ranged attack, and that's pretty much just the nature of Path of Exile. Pretty much all melee characters need some sort of ranged attack, whether it's just Cleave, which gives you a bit of extra AoE, Sweep, or Lightning Strike. Every melee build pretty much needs one of those. There are a few ones that focus on single target melee range attacks, but generally speaking, you want some sort of ranged ability, especially just for more difficult mobs. It just keeps you from taking a lot of damage. So that's currently supported by, if I go into here, Lightning Strike is supported by increased critical strikes. That's just an okay little benefit there. And then the 2 important ones are lesser multiple projectiles for that increased AoE, because with the 3 projectiles it starts off with, it's really poor AoE. And then Pierce. Pierce is super important for Lightning Strike actually. You can get this through one of 2 ways. You can have Pierce through this support gem, or you can get a quality Lightning Strike. If you can get a 10% or better quality Lightning Strike, then you can effectively save a gem slot, because you'll have a decent amount of Pierce to play with. But otherwise, you really want this Pierce support gem. So that's it for that Lightning Strike for now. In terms of upgrading that, I'll just be focusing on more damage basically. And then my single target is Double Strike, as I pretty much showed it off in the level 20 recap, and that's currently supported by quite a few things, because I happened to get lucky enough to find a 5-link chest in a vendor, no less. So I went ahead and alchemied that and have a 5-link chest, so I can't even fully take advantage of this. So Double Strike's currently supported by weapon elemental damage, which gives a nice DPS boost, added fire, life leech, and fire penetration, so pretty much just focusing on damage. Nothing really too special there. Eventually I'd like to get that supported by lightning gems rather than fire gems. Fire gems basically just because of the color of the links I've had now. I've had a lot of trouble chromaticking this chest piece, since it's a pure armor piece which tends to lean towards strength sockets. So you saw me using Flicker Strike a little bit. I'm basically just using that for mobility at the moment. And let's go ahead and get rid of this. I don't actually have it equipped at the moment, but I'll show you in a moment what I want to do with Flicker Strike and Frenzy in the future. In terms of Curse, I've been using Enfeeble. I tested Enfeeble and Critical Weakness. Critical Weakness was nice, but it didn't really make too much of a difference, and I found I needed Enfeeble more, because what that does is it reduces all incoming damage by 25% when you first get it, and what level I have it up to now reduces by 29%, so that's a big reduction in damage from all sources. And since I was having a little bit of survivability issues, pretty much as all melee builds are going to have in the early game, Enfeeble was very important for that. Now in terms of auras, I'm currently using Clarity, Wrath, and Hatred, so damage, and mana regen, which again helped out with those mana problems just a little bit, so I can pretty much support Lightning Strike, especially when I'm hitting things and getting that life leech, and same thing for Double Strike there. And that's pretty much it for those. Now the reason I'm in the ledge at the moment is because I actually want to show you guys what I want to achieve later in this build in terms of skills. So I'll go ahead and set up my skill gems just because they're not set up at the moment. Alright, now if you're prone to motion sickness when playing games like this, you might not want to watch this next bit. So I'm going to go ahead and pop Blood Rage there. Get a few Frenzy stacks up. I'll grab that Orb of Scouring, and then I'll just pop a potion. And basically this is what I want to do later with this build. Now the reason I'm in the ledge at the moment is just simply because I don't have the survivability to do that at the current point, and that's mostly a life regen issue and just an all-around defensive issue. So I'll move into showing you guys my passive skill tree now and show how I want to how I've changed my build basically so that I can support that gameplay style there, because it's cool. It suits the build more. I was trying to think of whether I should use Flicker and Frenzy, and I think that really suits the aesthetic, the theme of the build that I was going for here. So let's go ahead and get back there, and I'll jump into the passive tree and show you guys the passive tree. So everything's pretty much the same here. You've noticed I've respecced out a little bit. I was heading down this way. I've spent a few respecs just sort of clearing that out. I'm actually getting rid of this life now. That life was helpful in the early game, but I'm respecking out of that in favor of adding more points elsewhere, which I'll show you now. I'm not getting all of the damage nodes I had planned out just yet. I can add those in later. But for now, I'm focusing. I've come up here and gotten life. I've got an Eldritch Battery, which has helped a lot with mana for a lot of auras and also some of the mana problems I was having. Eventually, I'd like to get to the point, well, test whether I can run Discipline and have it be effective, because with enough energy shield and buff effect supports passives, you can get Discipline to give you more mana than it costs when you have Eldritch Battery enabled. So I'm going to see if I can do that, and then if I can do that, my end goal is to run Vitality here. So that'll support Blood Rage a lot more, because with that enabled, the life regen's a lot less now, but hopefully once I get some other passives, it'll be even better. So let's go jump back into the passive tree there. Kind of a little bit all over the places, but I'll try and get the main points out to you guys. So I've come through down to the center, and I've come up here, pick up Inner Force. I think Inner Force is incredibly important for any Eldritch Battery build. The point of Eldritch Battery is pretty much just support more auras, and Inner Force and the buff effect nodes here add a lot of extra benefit from the auras that you are running. So they're currently giving me more damage and more mana regen and more benefits when I'm using like Frenzy and Blood Rage and things like that. And hopefully it'll also increase my energy shield later and my my health regen from Vitality. So my next plan now is to head down this way, and I'm going to come through here and cherry pick some of the good nodes from the Marauder tree and cherry pick some of the good nodes from the Templar tree. Now it'll probably be these life ones here, Catalyze. I'll probably get Body and Soul here, Slaughter, the two-handed passive here, Discipline and Training. I'll get the armor nodes here, probably try and get Troll's Blood if I can, Heart of the Gladiator and Diamond Skin there. So all of those really good ones there. And then whatever other points I have, I can spend on getting additional life from over here and life leech over here. And if I still have a lot of points left over of that, I've actually planned this out, and I don't think I'll be able to do this last bit, but we'll see how it's going. You could eventually, very late game, head up and get static blows for extra shock chance, but that's a very late game thing, probably that we won't ever see come to fruition. Now, the thing about this change is that it essentially makes this build a cookie cutter melee shadow. Like, I get one two-handed passive, that's it. You guys might be a bit disappointed because you wanted to see like one that really heavily focused on two-handed swords, but you don't always need to get specific weapon type damage nodes to make a build that focuses on a certain type of weapon. Basically, this means that if you guys, and I've had a few people ask about this, want to make a two-handed axe shadow, then you can do that with this build. And maybe when I come to the final build guide, I'll be using a sword, maybe I'll be using a two-handed axe or two-handed mace or something like that. Lightning strike and double strike and flicker and pretty much all of the skills I have work fine with any two-handed weapon. So it's basically looking like it's going to become somewhat of a solid shadow two-handed build. It could even be a one-handed build. You could easily instead get some dagger damage nodes or claw damage nodes, or not get any damage nodes at all and simply focus on getting the defensive and crit strike nodes and lightning damage nodes and things like that, and getting your damage that way and picking whatever weapon type you want. On that alone, it's very flexible. You could basically use a one-hander and a shield, you could dual wield one-handers, or you could use two-handers. So it's pretty interesting. I'm pretty excited to see how this build progresses in the future. As I said, I'm pretty much going to focus on trying to get Blood Rage and Flicker Strike being supportable, so I can actually do that long term without it being a bit too risky for the content that I'm actually doing, and just making the build all around more stronger and more survivable. So the last thing I wanted to show you guys was a bit more about gear. Now, weapon types, just whatever, just get a high damage two-handed weapon. I've been getting a lot of resistances and things like that. Lightning damage, especially because I have some lightning damage nodes, are always good, and that's going to help with that shock chance. I've already explained Slither Pinch, all pretty basic. I know you guys wanted me to go over gear. A few of you have asked about going over gear more specifically, but I think I really need to do that in another video because it's something to talk about in a more general sense. But for this build, I guess the main point to make is that eventually you'll be focusing on armor, energy shield gear. So I might get a pure armor chest piece, or I might get an armor energy shield chest piece. The good thing about a two-handed sword is that it gives me dex strength. So that means dex and strength sockets are more likely to come up on that, which will help a lot with double strike, lightning strike, flicker, all those skills that I need to support. The problem with a pure armor chest piece is, as I said, it's very hard to get those dexterity nodes on there. So otherwise, any energy shield you pick up from gear is going to help towards supporting your mana. So that's pretty much it. Pretty basic stuff on that. Maybe I can talk a bit more about gearing in the final build guide once I've got it a bit more sorted out. But at the moment, I'm just using whatever good pieces I've found with good sockets and things like that. Nothing too specific at this point. So, hopefully you guys have found this helpful if you're leveling a similar build, and it's given you guys a good picture of how the build's been to level so far. It's okay in survivability. With careful play, it's good. I'm probably finding it a bit slower to level than the Blood Magic Bow Duelist, but it seems like a lot of fun so far. So, especially I think once I get this Frenzy Flicker Strike thing going, I think it's going to be a lot more fun even then. So, that's about it for now. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.